Hello, I'm Hannah.
And I'm Tom. Welcome to the Digital Behaviour Podcast, a podcast about human behaviour in the digital world.
To help you understand what drives online behaviour, how we can measure this, and the impact on the wider world.
Today, we're going to meet Louis Havriliuc, co-owner at the first digital marketing simulation game, which is called Simbound. Louis was at the forefront of developing a game that simulated the digital marketing environment for students in a safe space.
Let's meet Louis. Welcome to the podcast, Louis. Would you mind introducing yourself and telling us a little bit about yourself and Simbound?
Hi, Anna. Hi, Tom. Thanks for having me on the show. So my name is Louis Havriliuc. I am co-owner of Simbound, which is a digital marketing simulations platform. So for those of you who have not used a digital marketing simulation, this is basically a website which allows you to practice out some of the theory that you're getting, in class. So building up a website, creating ad campaigns, sending out emails, all of this takes place in this risk-free environment, along with some nice gamification elements. And we'll talk more about that later on.
Yeah, welcome to the podcast, Louis. As I understand it, what you've produced is a software package that allows people to actually create digital marketing tools like websites and social media platforms and things like that, and then sort of practice to see how they work. Is that correct?
That is absolutely correct, Tom. So we've had this vision of allowing people a fast and easy way, a risk-free way of testing out their knowledge, getting more practice, talking about, important topics in digital marketing, because, it's such a big topic right now. It's such a big industry in this space where they are free to experiment, where they will get almost constant, and immediate feedback on their actions. All of this taking place with, some sound pedagogical principles in place.
I want to say that actually, you were the first simulation game. Is that correct in digital marketing?
Yes. So the platform itself was launched very close to the date when we're, recording this podcast some 13 years ago. So back then, I would say that digital marketing education was just only, taking off. We didn't have too many customers, to be honest with you, during the first 1 or 2 years after we launched. But then I immediately realized that this is going to be huge, and it's going to be part of every business school, offering around the world.
I have to say, based on my experience, so I just like Hannah, I teach digital marketing here at UWE in Bristol. And it is sometimes a challenge for students from around the world to then get to grips with whichever advertising platform, let's say, that we use in the classroom, because they have to provide their credit card details or their debit card details to create an account, and some of them don't want to do that. Having a tool like yours where people can actually have a go at using these tools and practice using them without spending money and without any real risk in the real world clearly offers huge benefits. So what do you see as the main benefits for people learning about digital marketing using your tool?
When we think about digital marketing, it's so vast, it's so complex that the platform is really, I would say, a representation of the real world. We don't cover everything, it's impossible to cover everything which is out there, but it's a nice representation of the real world where you go in, you start thinking about these concepts. And one thing which I always say to the people we're working with is that simulation is a very good conversation starter.
Would you mind, just for our listeners' benefit, just talking through what the main things are that you can do? I mentioned websites, I think, earlier on, but what else can you actually do in the platform if you want to learn using Simbound?
So, I'm just going to group it into, various different, let's say, marketing dimensions, right? Digital marketing dimensions. So one would obviously be the website, as a central hub, the central asset of all your digital marketing, activities. This includes analytics, all sorts of like e-commerce and performance enhancement tools. Then you have search engine advertising with its own subcategories of, search, shopping, and then, what they call display ads. Then we have email marketing, where you can build on your relationship with prospects. And I'm sure everybody has seen, an email coming from a marketer near or afar. Then we have social media marketing, which is our latest addition. And this also gets into this, environment where you can post things and follow what is happening in the cohort, in the course, because it's mostly used by universities. We kind of like have a small social network of all the people joining the simulation, where they can each sort of like interact and follow up on what everyone else is doing. And of course you have the paid placements, the paid ads as part of that. Then we also have an affiliate marketing simulation. And then we also have the community management simulation, which is also first of its kind, where we draw up people who can take up, the role of a community manager. They can run communities together. They can enable some gamification tactics. And what is gamification? Just real quick for those who don't know, it's borrowing concepts and rules from the world of games, implementing it in non-game contexts such as this one.
I think what's important to just bring across as well is that really, even though there are limitations, of course, to simulation, but it is such a safe space for students or even, practitioners if they want to start really with the basics. It seems like such a safe space to, make decisions and see how they're impacting on the business performance. Whether it's, the website, as you say, you can have design principles, you can implement them and see how that's going to work. And then all those different dimensions that you've just mentioned, which I think is really incredibly important. Now, there are some developments in the digital marketing field that, me as a researcher have noticed around sort of misinformation in particular, things like data privacy and other sort of ethical decision making. Is there anything that you sort of have implemented or are thinking about implementing within the simulation game to make our students or anybody else who's using the simulation game sort of aware of those developments?
Yes, we have had students in the platform which did one thing, and this could be considered, illegal, I know, in many countries. So what they did actually was to create false promotions, right? False advertising. What happened is that they reduced the pricing of a certain product, but only temporarily, simply to make way for a quick burst of sales. But that is fine. But the way they did that actually is that they increased the pricing before that, so that it appears that it is a sale. So it was like a false promotion type of thing. This being, I would say, a monitored kind of environment where, other people on the course can have a look at what you're doing. I think this makes them more inclined to think twice about, what they could or they could not do.
So within your platform, within Simbound, would the players be penalised if they were trying to use unethical practices? Is that what happens?
What we're doing is we're signaling that behavior to the teacher, to the instructor, and we usually leave them to decide, what's going to happen, because we're not teachers ourselves, so we don't know the exact context of what's happened in the course, why something like that might have happened. So we leave the teachers to decide what's going to happen with their results in the simulation.
To be fair, Louis, that's happening in the real world, having somebody looking over these decisions, and flagging if there's anything that is unethical. So that's really interesting.
I was going to ask you, Louis, about the rapid pace of change in the digital marketing industry, just with social media platforms alone, just with probably one or two social media platforms on their own, you'd have to make lots of changes. So is it quite tricky to update the simulation to keep track of all the changes that are happening in the real world?
It's impossible, actually. So I guess the only solution we've come across so far is to focus on the principles, on the underlying, basic, let's say, structure of how things work when you're doing, as you said, social media marketing, but it can be applied across other dimensions as well, because those principles will never change, right?
One of the biggest changes, I think any digital marketer or future digital marketer has come across is sort of the use of AI in digital marketing. Is that something that you have implemented in a way, whether that's, a different way of employing AI to help the students or to make the game better? Is that something that you have sort of come across and try to implement?
We're using AI for now to sort of like become more efficient. So where, before a lot of time was needed to analyze results or just like go through different content or stuff like that, then when we start using AI for that, that saves everybody a lot of time.
So you're obviously using AI to help with some of your processes in the way that the software works. Can the students actually use AI within the tools that they choose to use in the simulation. So if they're using social media, can they create social media content using AI, or would that be a step too far for you at the moment?
We cannot prevent them from doing that. Like even if they step outside of the website and they copy the, whatever social media post, they come back and they place that onto our own, system. We do use it to evaluate stuff like context and tonality and stuff like that. So we use it basically to grade in a way, have some sort of intermediary grades on how students are doing and in going about their whole decision.
Can I ask you just how would you know from the metrics and the insights that the simulation provides that a player has been successful and that they're ready to graduate from their course and maybe move into the real world and actually apply what they've learned to the real marketing tools in the real world? What indications would the teacher or the instructor get that they've actually been successful in this platform?
So we have a range of metrics. Basically, these are reports, organized under different dimensions, under different activities that the student has undertaken. These are mostly numerical for now, but we will start adding more of a let's say, qualitative approach. Another thing we're doing is we're also trying to get people to be in touch with experts and with industry, because I think learning is multifaceted, so it doesn't have to come from one source. And for that, we've developed a new website. It's called Marketing Squads. So we have simbound.com, which is the main website, and the other one is marketingsquads.com, where people can publish their results from the simulation. So they get kind of like a stamp, like a certificate of them, progressing through the simulation along with their results. I think that can help, decision makers like hiring and HR people to determine whether, the person sitting in front of them actually has a good understanding of things, and, whether they have went through some sort of formal or informal, learning type of program.
I think that's really interesting. And I think the one thing that we can be sure of is that, once they've had it in the classroom, there's definitely that second layer of learning when they actually have to execute what they've learned. Louis, another thing or topic that I would like to just maybe brush upon or talk about briefly is that of the implementation of sustainable decision-making, sustainable business decision-making in particular. Can you just walk us through sort of some of the decision-making that you're encouraging students to make while they're playing your simulation game?
All right. Yes. So when you're playing, Simbound, you have a choice of setting up your own brand, choosing, let's say, the positioning of your company, within the simulated environment. And, that has no restrictions for now. And, when we're looking at this type of setup, we have to consider that, digital marketing is there for performance, is there for sales, is there to start increasing the business itself. How do you do that in a sustainable way? Well, there's many different things you can do. You can source, different products. You can invest some of your resources into improving society and the environment and adopting like fair governance principles. So when we're doing that in digital marketing, it's almost always about communication and sort of like letting these initiatives be known to the world, whether this is, implemented as part of a, let's say, default policy on every, web page or every email. I don't know if that's really the case with some companies, but in the simulation, like you can send emails, you can announce some partnerships with different entities which are specialized, which are focused on ESG metrics. And then you also have the choice of setting up ESG communities. And again, it's a very good point to start talking about it and learning about this.
But so summarizing, you've implemented PITs already, especially around sort of email marketing, giving, I guess, a template around ESG, right, that students can use, and in the community bits. Are there any plans to do more?
Yes. So we would be looking at some point to have a ESG score applied to every team in the game, so every company in the game or every individual participant in the game, and we would actually, loop that back to also some business results.
And just thinking about what the possibilities are for this tool, it's almost endless, the kind of things that you could factor in, encouraging students to learn about different techniques that they could use to be more effective or less effective. Obviously, you've been building in the ESG aspects to the platform, but have you got any other plans for the ongoing development? Because I presume it's going to be constantly evolving over the next few years.
Yes, you're right. So, yes, we will. This is why we're having these kind of talks with academics and with researchers, because they give us so many ideas, and their sort of like line of work touches on what we're doing. I love this. I think more of this should happen in order to be able to advance knowledge and research and teaching and all that. So when we're looking at the ethics of digital marketing and how we're approaching that with simulations, but I think at the end of the day, like what is truly important is to allow students to be creative in this space where sometimes we say that even a mistake can teach you more about how stuff goes. So instead of telling them hey, this is right, this is wrong, let them explore it because it's a risk-free environment, and let them see the consequences of that. Let them sort of like feel the wrath of these virtual consumers when something goes wrong, or let them sort of like reap on the benefits of doing considerate communications for their audience, these virtual audiences. So I think you're right. There's many possibilities, but we would like to sort of like leave open all the possibilities, and we would like to sort of like have this rich kind of environment where anybody can choose to do whatever they want at the end.
Have you got any plans to build in things like virtual reality and enrich the experience even more?
In the future, we're going to have more competition. So I'm very excited about what the industry as a whole will start to produce, in the future. And I think this benefits everybody. When there's just one or two companies, it's not a sort of like good, let's say, place for innovation, and consumers are quite pressed for choice. I think in the future, there will be more and more of these companies, and AI is enabling that for sure. And I think what will happen is that we'll see this, take towards new heights in a way in which, we might not even know it right now. But I think in the future, we will be able to do more sophisticated simulations. And in some cases, people will be hard to distinguish whether this is a simulation or a real company or a real thing. And I think that creates a whole new set of opportunities for the industry and for the companies. And it also creates a lot of potential issues and warning signs that we need to take heed of.
This has been really interesting. Thank you so very much. And I hope that our listeners enjoyed listening and hearing about simulation as an option, to learn around digital marketing. Could you tell our listeners sort of the best ways to get in touch with you if they want to find out more about Simbound, or sort of talk to you about the potential of either using it in their education background or just as a practitioner?
It's very simple. It's simbound.com, simbound.com. That's the website where we have all of the resources, available at a simple request. So yeah, that's the place to start.
Brilliant. And are people advised to connect with you on LinkedIn as well?
Please. It's Louis, Louis Havriliuc, Havriliuc.
Brilliant. I'm sure we will put some links in the podcast episode. So thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you for having me on the show. And keep in touch.
Will do. Thank you. Bye.